All right, we are coming back from spring break, and it is March 17th. It is exactly our 14th class period, and of a 16-week semester where we have about 28 class periods and then finals. This is exactly halfway. So good job getting this far. It is when we start using a new program and using a new type of digital art, which is vectors rather than just pixel-based. So we're going to be talking a lot today about the differences between vectors and raster images or pixel-based images. Another name, an older name for raster is bitmap, so sometimes you'll hear that. And you do have a question of the day about the advantages and disadvantages of vector as part of this unit. We're in Unit 9 here. The reason it says on your course outline that we're working on Units 8 and 9 is Unit 8 is still your group presentation. So we're still making progress on that. Your group presentations will take place a week from today on Monday, March 24th. So that's when you want to get everything kind of organized and cleaned up in that Google Slides so you can present it on the 24th. And if that feels stressful around the midterm, my art history students have to start building their presentations tomorrow, and then they have to present them as a group on Thursday. So you'll remember that, Tracy. So I try to get you to do these presentations just to jump right in and start working on them. So don't be afraid to do that with your group. Now, today we have a few things due. There's the question of the day, and there's also proving ground number 2. But proving ground number 2, which I introduced at the end of last class, is sketches for assignment 4. So assignment 4 is our vector design project. And before we have to learn a vector program and plotting the anchor points and getting the shapes exactly as we want them, we really want to have a clear idea of what we're trying to make as a vector. So that's where Proving Ground 2 comes in, to sketch out some ideas, to get some input from our fellow classmates, and then to choose one of those thumbnail sketches to refine and turn into our assignment. So I'm going to show you what I did for the morning so you can understand this. So my morning sketches for Proving Ground number 2, the theme is a personal patriotic symbol, right? You get to define all aspects of that for yourself. You could also think of it as like a personal coat of arms, but it needs to also work as a clear logo, as just a black shape that reads at any distance. We want it to be clear, engaging, and versatile. So for the morning class, I'm working with the same kind of imagery that I'm going to work with for this afternoon class, which is the idea of myself as a serpent, because I'm the year of the snake on the Chinese zodiac, and this serpent has wings. It's a feathered serpent or a winged serpent, either for the eagle of the American identity or for the winged serpent, which falls on my birthday in the Mayan calendar. And so these are 3 different approaches for a winged serpent idea. And notice they are completely different visually. Sometimes your 3 approaches might be kind of similar, but just pushed in different ways. But I want you to think in these 3 strategies. Central symmetrical means everything is balanced off the middle. Dynamic means everything is based on curves and diagonals, and you're trying to avoid horizontals and verticals, right? It's because it's getting the eye to move fast across it. And then a play of positive and negative space. Sometimes it's a more dynamic design, sometimes it's a more central symmetrical design. This one is a more dynamic design, but the play of positive and negative space is that the empty space around your black shapes also is interesting and delivers content, is activated by your image. So we'll review all of that. I'm just giving you the full process as the big picture. That's your advantage as an afternoon. So once you've posted those to Proving Ground number 2, then you're going to give input to another student and tell them which of their 3 approaches, or they could do more than 3, you think has the most potential to be a good finished vector. And the class identified the play of positive and negative space one for me as being the strongest. So then you open it up in Photopea, and we clean it up. So this becomes what's called my refined sketch. Now the refined sketch, obviously, it's been filled in with black, but it's actually little tweaks have also been made. Notice that the shape of the head has been made more symmetrical. The forked tongue has been made more symmetrical than my sketch. So this is where you really get to kind of refine it. And I actually squished it a little bit and angled it a little bit so that I'm really confident that this is what I want to turn into my vector. And then in the morning class, we use a program called Adobe Illustrator, which is Adobe's vector program, to start tracing that refined sketch into a clean vector. And vectors are perfectly clean at any size. So if I zoom in on this, you can see you never see pixels, right? And that's the advantage of a vector file. But the raster file that I use for my refined sketch, if you zoom in on that, all the curves are made with these square pixels. So what do we want to get accomplished today? Basically all of that. We want to sketch our thumbnails, our 3 thumbnails in these 3 different approaches: central, symmetrical, dynamic, and play of positive and negative space. We want to sketch them loosely and quickly. And we can definitely sketch more than 3, but I want you to label them clearly when you post them into Proving Ground number 2 so that you can comment on other students' work and say, I really like your dynamic logo, right? And this is why. And that's what you need for the Proving Ground. Then, based on other people's input and based on your own feelings about your work, you're going to choose one to turn into a refined sketch. That's what this is. Then you're going to bring that refined sketch into a vector program. We are going to use a freeware one that is called vector.com, but without the val at the end. So it's vectr.com. And we're going to use the SVG editor. SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphic. So we'll get to that. And then, just like in Illustrator, we're going to bring in our refined sketch and we're going to trace it. So let's get a little backing. It's always good to start when we return from a break or from a weekend. Oh, do I need to sign in again? Yes, indeed. It's always good to look at the course outline. So I'm going to open that up. This is the 2-part authentication that faculty get to do. There we are. All right, so this is our home page. And what I'd like you to do is to look at our course outline, just to remind yourself of that. And we'll see what's coming up. So, we just finished spring break. Today we're working on question of the day 3, part of unit 9, turning in Proving Ground number 2. You definitely want to have that in by the end of the day so you'll stay on track with this project. And we're going to get started on assignment 4. Next class, we're going to be working pretty much all day on assignment 4. But we're also going to start thinking about which images we want to print for our midterm critique, which is going to be in week 9 next week. And then a week from today, on Monday, March 24th, assignment 4 is going to be due, but we'll also be giving our presentations during class, so it's a busy day. And we'll be reviewing for our midterm exam, and we'll be printing for our midterm critique, which will be 3 pieces from each of you. And then on March 26th, we will have our short midterm exam. It's 7 points, but it only takes half an hour. We'll do a review session for that on the 24th. And we're going to take part in what's called a midterm gallery critique, where you'll all have your 3 prints from the first half of class up in the classroom, and we will critique them as part of Proving Ground number 3. Right? And then we'll get introduced to our next assignment, which is a combination of vector and raster to make spot illustrations. Then we get a nice break on Monday the 31st for Cesar Chavez Day. And then when we come back in April, it's amazing that we're already talking about April, and that's only a couple weeks from now, right? But that is when you'll start picking your artist, your digital artist, for your individual presentations, which will be nearer the end of the semester. So we just keep on chugging along. Remember, you can always refer to this. Midterm grades will be posted, I believe it's next Monday. So on the 24th. The 24th is a big day. So what are we focusing on today? Unit 9 and Unit 8, right? Understanding the difference between vectors and raster, getting our proving ground submitted, and getting started on assignment 4. So with that in mind, how do we do that? We're going to go right to our unit modules. We're going to remind ourselves of what's involved here. And we're going to scroll past Unit 8, which is for your group presentation. Remember, you guys can work on that. That is due in a week. You're going to be presenting in a week. And you have past student examples. You have the assignment sheet. And then all of you also have your topic and your shared link where you're working on building these presentations, right? So don't forget about that. Check in with your group members. Yep, and all of them work. That's great. All right. But what we're going to be focusing on in class is Unit 9, this vector design program. We posted one video. We started it before the break, but we've probably forgotten all of that, but at least got it in your head. So, first part of that is this question of the day. After this video is done, we're going to discuss this question of the day. But before you can really sketch your personal patriotic symbol, you really need to understand why vectors are helpful for certain things, like logo design. Right? Yes, Stephen. My which one? Oh, my battery. Thank you. Let's see how bad we are. Yeah, we're at 7. We're fine. All right. So, when you're doing a logo or you're doing a t-shirt design or you're doing a graphic, something that doesn't have a lot of different colors in it, is not made to be photorealistic. It's not a photograph. It's not a sunset, right? It's a clean graphic. You want it to be as clean as possible. And so vectors are the best option for this, because vectors at any size will be perfectly clean, like I showed with zooming in on the Illustrator project. What you guys need to do with this question of the day is think, when do you want those kind of perfectly clean images, and when do you not want them? Because they do not work well for the kind of landscape composites we did. If you did that as a vector, it would all be kind of chunky paper cutouts. Right? Why did we use vector shapes for your emoji, but we used raster when we made our creatures? Right? So let's discuss that. I'm going to pause the video, and we'll put some notes up on the board. So as a nice review, like we went over in the last class, I have some slides here for you. The slides have a video from a past student that explains the difference between them. The only thing that's a little confusing is this student uses bitmap as the term for raster, even though it's kind of an outmoded term, and bitmap means something a little different now. This was way back in 2010 when I started teaching. But vectors are, like you guys said in our discussion, perfectly sharp and clean at any size, any resolution. They're ideal for single or simple color shapes with hard edges. Not just logos, but things like line art, for coloring books, for t-shirts, for comics, right? They treat each shape as a separate cutout that are layered on top of each other. That's a good way to think about it. Here's a vector rendering of a character versus a raster rendering. And how can you tell it's a vector? Because every curve is perfectly clean. You don't see that kind of pixelization anywhere. Now you can get that same illusion at a high enough resolution, but in a vector, it's just always that way, no matter how you view it. This is how pixel art works. This is how vector art works, right? So it can be used for like sprites and assets to give you that perfectly smooth, clean outline. And then they can be colored from behind. And you can even fill vectors. You can fill them with flat color, but you can also fill them with gradients, as you see here. But it's the edge that really matters. So sometimes vectors are used, and then, like the 3D model I passed around, then they're rendered with pixels.